This lesson will show you how key attribute data can be used within a report or a group. As you can see, I'm logging on as Susan May. Now, Susan May is a user who has info manager rights, and so she's able to create and edit reports, and she's able to create and edit groups. But before we go and look at the creation of a group or a report, what I'd like to do is to head over and look at the information contained underneath the company Gatecom. Here you can see that there's a tab called Key Attributes. Now, key attributes allow additional information to be added into the system. The setup and discussion about how we define key attributes is going to be held inside another lesson, so here we're just concentrating on the usage of the data. But the fields that you see on the screen here have been defined without changing the fundamental data model of the system, so they're not extra fields held within inside the customization screens. They're not changing the sizing of the tables. These are extra little bits of information held within a pre-built structure called the key attributes tables. But you'll notice here that the questionnaire that we've filled in includes questions about existing enterprise software being used, so Evidian Time and Expense Manager. Now, if I go off to look at another company, like DesignRight, we can see that the key attributes questionnaire is available to them. So I can click on the installed software question and add this category of questions in here, and I can answer the particular option that I want. So I'm providing the answer that this company, DesignRight Inc., is using the same software that Gatecom is using. And these type of questions could be asked either as I'm doing it through the main interface or through the outbound calls feature. And again, that's something that will be discussed in another training lesson. So what I've done here is I've made sure I've got a couple of records which are associated with the key attribute data of existing enterprise system, being Evidian Time and Expense Manager. What I want to do now is to use that information or make that information available to projects with inside groups and reports. So I've navigated across into the My CRM menu, and I'm coming into the Groups menu where I can start creating a new group. I'm going to call this Evidian Users, and it's going to be a dynamic group based on the entity company. Now, the aspect about key attribute data is that when we look at the setup of key attribute data, we'll find that key attribute data can be associated with just about any data, such as the person, the opportunity, a lead, even a case. You may have additional information you want to store as key attribute data. But when you come to using it, you have to think about in which context it's been stored. And obviously the information about the software being used is linked to the company, and that's why we're choosing it here. I make sure I use a particular view that's suitable for creating groups, and I then am going to make this group available for other users, not just myself, but all info managers. And we can see that we have default group contents listed out, and we now have the option as well to add in key attribute data. So when I select the key attribute data, we have to indicate which category we're using. You can have multiple categories defined of key attribute data, and as I said, that will be covered in the definition of key attribute data will be held in another lesson. But I've got this category called installed software, and I'm interested in the existing enterprise system software associated with the company entity. And I'm going to now link that into both the group contents and also out as search criteria. So when we come to creating a group, key attribute data can be used both within the contents and within the criteria. And of course, if it's contained within the contents, it will then become available within the output of the group and is therefore available for export or use by any recipient of the group, including information within the dashboard. So if I click to continue, I can now continue on this and use the research to request the information about the Evidian time and expense manager as my criteria. This of course is information held in the key attributes, and I can continue there, and you can see how I'm able to retrieve the information. And now I can save that, and that group is listed and is available underneath the groups area, and that can be used by anyone wanting to work with groups. Key attribute data can also be used within reports. So if you switch across into the reports screen, here you can see I'm going in to look at the general category because I want to create a report that is again pulling information about those Evidian users. And here what I'm going to choose is to ask Evidian companies. It's based on the company name, and I want to use a particular view, and I'll find the company summary, and there's a company summary that I'll use, and I will now choose to add in fields into the report content. So I can pick any of the information that I want within the report contents. I'm just going to choose one of those, but I can also now use key attribute data, and key attribute data will be able to be added into either the report contents or the search criteria. So here I'm using again the installed software. I'll choose the existing enterprise system field associated with the company, and I can add that both to the report's contents and also to the search criteria, and I can keep adding in any other information that I want to as well within the output. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm adding in other criteria, key attribute data that was associated with the company as well. But the only criterion that I'm using is the existing enterprise system. So once I've chosen the fields that I want, I can then continue in the same way that, a very similar way to when we were building groups, and I can continue now and choose to save this. So I've saved my report, and we should see here the Evidian companies, and I can now choose to run this and provide the criteria that I want, which is Evidian time and expense manager. I choose to run the report, and you can see it returns out the same and similar information as before, but drawing on other information held inside the key attribute tables. So what we've seen there is how we can use key attribute data both to define groups and use with inside reports.